Hey guys, it's Casual from NerdHammer.net. I'm going to give a rundown of my Age of Sigmar feelings about how I feel after getting a game and watching another game and watching some battle reports. Getting the models on the table was what I've wanted to do from the get-go. That's what I've been saying. Like, I got to give the game a shot and play it and make that opinion on my own. And I encourage all of you to do the exact same thing. Play the game. It's free to download. You already have the models if you're on this channel. So get a game yourself and form your own opinion. Don't let anyone else sway you. But this is my take. If you care about my opinion or don't, this is what I wanted to get down to. I wanted to get the models on the table and play the game. So I think the best way to review this would be to just go through the rules step by step. Not explain them to you because obviously you can read them, but I'll just give you my take on how my game's played out and my thoughts. So in the beginning, obviously, you have your armies. The way I always saw this was just don't be a dick. Don't be a dick and bring stupid stuff. You want to play with your friends and have a good game and roll some dice, maybe drink some beers. Bring an army that you think is decently fair. I know that's hard for us to understand in this world of list building and whatnot, but so we did that. We had equal sized forces basically, at least in our minds. So war scrolls and units, you know what that is. You can get them on a website, Tools of War, blah blah blah. The battlefield, we set up our battlefield. We did roll on this table, and we ended up. It says 2 terrain features. I think that means like 2 per 2-foot square. I don't know. We ended up with 6 terrain pieces. We didn't know where to place them because it doesn't really explain that. So we just kind of took turns placing them and thought, this is what it looks like. We did the mysterious landscapes. We rolled for each one. We got a couple of the 2 results, which is the arcane, add 1 to the casting, which is a really cool feature. We keep our mages close to there, and it helps. What else did we get? I think sinister, but it didn't really play into the game. Mystical, yeah. So the scenery was it definitely had effect for casting, but maybe just because we didn't inspiring. Yeah, we didn't really see them have much of effect on our game, but I could see them having effect on specific games. Battle begins. We just set up just like this. Enemy territory. My territory is half the table, just like classic battle line. One thing of note: you can't be within 12 inches of your opponent's territory, which might get pretty interesting when you do a formation like the one on the third one down, because that kind of limits exactly where you're going to be deploying. You'd have, 12 inches from here. It's kind of like an L shape, so it's going to be really in the back corner, I guess. But we just set up regular our general was the same. Neither one of us outnumbered each other, so sudden death didn't come into play. And I kind of feel like I think sudden death should be all the time in the game. Whenever you get to that point, you can switch everything up and try to win. I don't know if that's balanced or fair, but just having it in the beginning, I could definitely see how unbalanced the starting sides could get. Even if you think it's balanced, if you don't really know your stats and how things play out, yeah, that could be difficult. So the sudden death table never came in in our game at all. Battle rounds, well, we'll get into all that. Neither one of us had any pre-battle abilities, so that really didn't come into play. So here's the game, the hero phase. So the first thing you got to realize, I took first turn in my game, which I was out of range for all magic, so that was like just such a bummer, except for arcane shielding. So I shielded 2 units. He couldn't stop it because he had no mage within 18 inches, so that was pretty cool. The command abilities, you just get them. You can just give a unit inspiring presence, which is different than 8th, where everybody within 12 gets it. You pick a single unit. Some other generals will have command abilities. I kind of feel like you should still have to roll for it, even if it's like a low cast. Just the fact that maybe you don't get it off, to just add that little bit of element. But yeah, you just get them automatically. And then in the command abilities, where you also cast, or in the hero phase, is also where you cast spells. So like I said, like I wasn't in range of anything besides arcane shielding for my first turn because you don't move first. So that's definitely different from 8th. I'm just going to scroll down to the wizards here so that we can talk about magic in that phase. Magic is definitely dumbed down. It's 2d6. You pick your spell at 2d6. My Lord of Change had 2 spells, and then all of the summoning. Everything in my book I could summon, so I have those spells too. But I can only cast 2 per phase. Didn't really think about summoning anything right away, but I could easily have done that, and you could just summon a Herald of Zeech, who then can use his magic phase, summon something else. I mean, you could really daisy chain an insane amount of units just instantly. It's kind of baffling. I don't know. I don't know how that's fair or that makes sense. I feel like summoning spells should just not be in the game at all. But realistically, a Lord of Change could summon a Lord of Change, could summon a Lord of Change, could summon a Lord of Change, and get within 18, and then start throwing Infernal Gateway and start killing things, and now you have 5 Lord of Changes to deal with. I know it just seems insane, and it really is. Yeah, it's crazy. And with that, like the Lord of Change, he just gets to change his die roll. He gets to change one of his dice every single time he casts to the highest value. So as long as you throw a 4 on 2 of your dice, you're good. You're gonna be able to cast almost anything besides like a Soul Grinder, which is like casting value 10. So you'd have to roll at least 1 5 out of 2 dice to cast that. Get the other 2 spells, Arcane Bolt, which is not incredibly powerful, but has a low casting value anyway of 5, so you'll get to at least do D3 mortal wounds to anybody within 18 inches. Mystic Shield, it helps out. Basically negates most of the -1 rends across the units. But yeah, so that's magic. It's pretty dumbed down. It's unbelievable that you can't unbind unless you have a wizard within 18 inches. 18 inches is really a danger zone, because if I get to throw a big spell on your guy, he's gonna die. Like, Gateway's just so overpowered. I looked at Teclis' spell, and it's like he does 1 mortal wound to a unit and then halves their movement. That's his big spell. And mine is, I target a unit, I throw 9 dice, and on a 3-up, you take a mortal wound. Yeah, the power is a bit different, to say the least. Let's see. Let's go down to... Alright, so the movement phase, it makes sense. I mean, you just move. You move your movement value. If you want to go further, you can add D6 to it. It's pretty random and pretty not far. Other than that, that's movement. There's no marching. Flyers are insanely fast in the sense that they can go very far. And that also means that when you get a flyer in combat, he can just be out so far, and you never get to pin a flyer down. Basically, he can just take off. Yeah, enemy models, 3-inch rule. That's self-explanatory. Shooting phase. The shooters I've seen are just absolutely dominating. The flamers hit on 4s, hit anything on 4s, hit and wounds anything on 3s, and then just does D3 wounds. There's no rend to them, so at least you'll get your save. But when you have, say 2 units of 3, and you have a champ in each, so now you're shooting with 4, 8, and 12. You're shooting 20 shots. Half of them are going to hit. Over half are going to wound. 5-up saves are pretty common. 4-ups are a little better. But even still, after that, so even if I get 3 or 4 wounds through, they're D3. So average that, you're doing 8 wounds. That's a lot of wounds from shooters on any model. So your 12 wound help hit is going to get picked off pretty quick. And your mages are in serious trouble, and that's bad. Yeah, shooting's tough. I saw Reavers in action. They are absolutely insane. They get like 2 shots each. They get to run away and then shoot again or something to that effect. Like, it's shooting is so powerful. If you really want to be if you really want to be good at this game, yeah, take some range. But then again, depending on what faction you are, you might be able to just summon shooters, which I did. As soon as my flamers were down, the first thing I did was summon more flamers so that I could just keep shooting, keep moving. You know, they have a 9-inch fly rule, 18-inch range. I can stay out of your charge all the time, and I'm just dancing around shooting and flying, and just whittling down everything. It just doesn't make sense. I mean, yeah, there are counters, but my my same unit counters your counter, because if you have a mage that you just want to try to kill that unit, you definitely could, but you need to be within 18 inches, and if you're within 18 inches, I'm going to be in 18 inches, and I'm going to be able to shoot. So yeah, it's tough. It's tough. Charge phase next. That's really easy. You know what charging is. Charging is basically the same as 8th. I mean, without the wheels and all that stuff. You get to do your move in your move phase, and then you get your 2d6. There's no swift stride, but I mean, you can, when you want to charge something, you can get the charge off if you plan it correctly. I think what's very important, and I think it's probably easier on round bases, is you really have to be particular with the way you're moving your models, and that runs into trouble because even though you think this is a skirmish game, a small-scale skirmish game, it really isn't. You can have a ton of models on the table like me and Rob had in our report. So now Rob's skirmishing, 40 clan rats and having to move all those and being within an inch to. If you're just kind of piling those guys in there, like pushing them around, like that's kind of unfair in the rules because. Is he really an inch away? We can't really tell because we do have square bases, and we're not going by the bases, we're going by the models. Now we're piling things in, and it just, I think the movement is an important part of the game, and you have to pay attention to it, but do you really want to have to pay attention to your opponent moving every single piece and making sure it's within an inch? It becomes cumbersome. And maybe it wouldn't be as bad if you had everything on round bases at a small scale game. It might be easier, but even still, it's heartbreakingly painstaking. So it brings us to the combat phase. Combat felt alright, actually. It was one of the brighter spots of the game for me. You get to bring more models in. I thought that was really neat. I had a picture where I had the Doom Wheel, and then all my Bloodletters were like surrounding it, and I thought that was really cool. I tried to be really careful with that 3-inch move, and if they weren't in range, they weren't in range because, I mean, combat is the bulk of this game, or should be. I think shooting and magic is the most important phases, but combat, a lot of it happens because, there's so much movement, and you can move any direction, so you're going to be in combat. So I think you also have to be very particular about that 3-inch pile-in rule if you really want to get the best out of the game. But the combat phase is interesting in the sense that I pick a unit to fight, you pick a unit to fight. It doesn't have to be in the same combat. It could be across all the battle line. That brings in another element of strategy because there could be units that are much more powerful, but with the way the game's set up, your weaker unit can still put wounds through it and take models off. So picking each combat is extremely important. Rob and I just kind of did it just out of habit, the way, the same units fight each other, but I don't think it would have had a big effect across our battles, but I could see that being a very important phase, and kind of like a mind game back and forth between players. With that said, so you pick the unit that's going to fight, everyone just piles in that unit to fight, and your opponent does blah blah blah. So then you do the attacks, and the attacks, it feels like Warhammer, except that what you're attacking doesn't really matter to you, because my guys hit on 3s, wound on 3s, and does 1 rend. and you have your save, so minus my rend. But it goes for anything. I mean, you know, Rob's clan rats were hitting me on 3s, wounding on 4s, to anything in my army. Like they ate up a unit of blood crushers, you know, and my bloodletters absolutely got slaughtered by storm vermin who were like 3s and 3s, and I only had a 5 up, and they have 1 rend, so I'm on a 6 up save, and that's that. So yeah, it's weird that it doesn't matter what they're attacking. It just doesn't seem right. Whether it's a dragon, whether it's a Skaven slave, like you can just put wounds through on anything. So that also, with that said, that also really changes your targeting for magic and shooting, because even if a unit's in combat, you can just shoot at it, but your stuff that's doing D3 wounds and mortal wounds and things, you really just need to be focusing on characters or the more powerful stuff in the game, which to my feeling is range attacks and magic attacks. You need to be focusing on that with your D3. Anything that does multiple wounds should be focused on those targets. And flying mages being able to keep out of that 18-inch range of other mages is completely overpowered. So yeah, in the combat phase, that's how it goes. But in that aspect, okay, so you take, after combat phase is over, and this includes shooting too, you take your Battleshock test. For my demons, I'm 10 bravery across the board. Like nothing died for me from Battleshock. I know their leadership is, their bravery is extremely high for that, but it was a small issue. Like he lost some clan rats and stuff, but other than that, I mean, it really didn't come into play that much. And I mean, it could definitely come into play in certain scenarios. Actually, my bloodletters, I think, lost 1. Yeah, because he had a big combat and had a lot of attacks with the storm vermin that did a lot of wounds. But with combat, hey, you're never locked down, right? I mean, if you have a flyer, my Lord of Change got in with a bunch of clan rats, and I just moved them away, because you can move them away. You know, right here in the movement phase, it says, unit starting the movement phase within 3 inches of an enemy unit can either remain stationary or retreat. So when we're in combat, we're within 3 inches. If the unit retreats, then it can't shoot or charge later that turn. So my Lord of Change with a 10-inch move can just leave, and he can run, because running's part of the movement phase, and retreat says nothing about running. Now I get to go D10 plus D6 and just get away from the combat. So now you lock my big mage down, you think, here's my chance to change the game, and my mage just flies away, and then casts Gateway and probably kills your unit. Yeah, it's tough, man. I wanted to like the game so much, but when it's on the table, it's just, I'm not feeling it. I'm not feeling it at all. Attacking's pretty simple. You know, any unit or any target within an inch or whatever your range is on your melee weapon, you just get to attack. Like I said, it's, you know, whatever your hit is, whatever your thing is, and like I said, it feels unengaging, and it doesn't really matter. You know, you can throw away units you're going to get wounds through. I say that in like in 8th edition, like Greater Demons only have 10 wounds or 5 wounds, and anything you can throw at them to just put wounds through and get that 500 some point guy down, like, you just do it. You know, anything. It doesn't matter if it's hit on 6s, wound on 6s. You just throw stuff at it, and that's kind of the way this is. Like, you're just going to throw wounds at stuff. His abomination that came in, I threw all my shooting, all my magic, charged it, and killed it in 1 turn. Didn't even get to attack. So that's getting through like 12 wounds. Yeah, I don't know. It doesn't feel right that weaker units. And I think that's the problem. Like, there are no weak units. All the units are good. I mean, you just roll dice, and you can increase your value. So yeah. So models and wounds don't matter. Like, I know some people were talking about comping it to like 100 wounds. It doesn't matter, because 100 wounds, they're not all the same. That just wouldn't work at all. Inflicting damage, you know, all that. D3 wounds, da da da. That was huge. Anything that does multiple wounds can absolutely dominate the game. Wizards, yeah, we already hit that. Cover really didn't come into play. I mean, we were in some terrain and stuff, but yeah, it didn't really come into play. Mortal wounds are pretty strong, in the sense that you don't get a save, but even there are some units that still get saves against mortal wounds. I think Phoenix Guard are one of them, which of course High Elves would have something that just goes against the rules anyway. But mortal wounds are definitely pretty strong. Anything that you have that causes mortal wounds, you know, is good against higher save stuff. But the highest saves you're going to see is probably 4. You know, with a buff, maybe 3. You're going to have some Rends, so yeah. That's about the take on the game, just on the phases of the game and how I viewed them. Now I know I'm coming off of 2 games, and I'm sure experiences can differ, but it just doesn't feel like it has the depth for me that I'm looking. And I know eighth is ridiculous in some aspects. Like I've said before, you know, why can your 15-point character redirect, you know, 1,000-point Death Star for an entire turn and hold that unit up? And like some of that stuff, we just got so accustomed to the insanity of it. But I'd still take that over this. I can't even put into words how this game could be better. It's like summoning just breaks it. You got to take summoning completely out of the game. No, you should not be able to summon any unit with anybody. I think that puts certain armies at a humongous disadvantage. I'm wondering if this game, if you took out all the old armies, if you just didn't play any of those, and you stuck with what new came out, if it would be any different. I'm also wondering if Warhammer is just setting up a situation where they're going to make models for other companies' games. Like, I wonder if they're going to start looking at War Machine and saying, we're going to put out this that you can probably use in War Machine. I don't know. I don't know what their thought is. I don't know what their plan is with this game. I don't know if this is the end of Warhammer. I really don't know. I don't know what the situation is. I don't know how it goes. I would like to see some scenarios released. Maybe that would get things rolling a little bit. But there's just some mechanics in the game that it doesn't feel right. Like, I just don't understand how you can just leave the combat and be okay. Like, just walk away. Doesn't make sense to me. Just make your full move and get away. But yeah, guys, I give it a shot. I've been so, I'm not infuriated because I can't get mad at anything on the internet, but I just was disheartened by how the community just was so outraged with this game, and so many people didn't even try it, and they were just so down on it. And I said from the beginning, like, you got to try it, you got to see it in action. I'm not going to let anyone dictate whether I play this game or not based on just their opinions. And I wanted to see it for myself, get the models on the table. We were all excited to play it. Nerdhammer was excited across the board. The Battle Scrolls came out, and that kind of shook us a little bit with the stupid rules like look your opponent in the eye, and if he looks you in the eye, you do this. Like, forget all that stuff. I mean, just use the rule. You know, like, it's just ridiculous. So that kind of was like, well, what's the point? Why are they making such a joke out of it? But even in the sense, like, I told the crew, like, don't even think of this in competitive play just right now. Let's get the models on the table. Don't worry about balance. We'll balance it ourselves. And let's see the mechanics of the game in action. And that's exactly what we did. We did that to the T. And it just, there's something off. There's just something off that doesn't sit well. What it is, maybe I'd be able to talk about it in more detail as I think about it more, but the impressions are just not good. And that's really, really disheartening, because this is a hobby that I absolutely love. I paint so much and play so much, and it's just to see it go down like this. I hope this isn't the end. I know I know some GTs coming up are probably going to stick with ETC 8th, which is great. So at least we'll have a year, the rest of the year with 8th edition. Moving forward past that, I don't know what's going to happen. But I gotta imagine GW's listening to the amount of feedback that's coming back about the game. Hopefully, they value the opinion of the players that actually have played it and seen it in action and got down to the nitty gritty. 8th wasn't perfect, but there's no doubt that the comparisons are going to be made to that, and it just doesn't hold a candle to it. I mean, this doesn't hold a candle to War Machine. I know a little bit about War Machine. I've watched some battle reports, and I haven't played the game. I've been close. I've had miniatures in my shopping cart to buy. But the depth of that game compared to this is it's just not there. And maybe that's GW's plan. They really don't want to have to support a game like this. Maybe they see that miniatures are the way, but I don't know how you make miniatures for something that you don't play. I don't know. I mean, yeah, there's collectors that just like to paint it and put it on the shelf, but really, we have miniatures because we play the game that's attached to it. So there's a lot that has to go on. I'm afraid that the community is just going to splinter and go different ways, and just, there's already games with support, with a competitive scene, if that's what your thing is. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how this is gonna go. Getting all this aside, we have the Keystone GT coming up this weekend, this next weekend, because it's still Sunday, and we're totally excited about that. We're going to throw a great GT. It's going to be 8th edition Swedish. You know that already. If you still want to play, come on, man. We got some space. We definitely can accommodate you. Send me an email at projectcasual@gmail.com with a K, and we'll get you in. If you can't remember that, info@nerdhammer.net. Send an email there if you still want to play. We're going to play 8th edition. We're going to send it. I don't want to say we're going to send it off, because I think there's going to be a couple more GTs that are going to support 8th edition. So, but we're still going to have a lot of fun with it. It's going to be a blast. So if you're in the Pennsylvania area, you want to come down to Harrisburg and play, you still can get in. And if you come in, mention my name, and maybe we can waive the 5-point penalty for a late list. I'm not sure about that, but we'll try. So yeah, guys, I'm excited. I'm still going to make battle reports for that. I am bringing the demons, running a Great Unclean with a Demon Prince. I have an 8.1, which is the very bottom of the scale of our Swedish comp for this event. So I'm bringing a tough army to a tough event. So check that out. I'm going to have the battle reports coming up. They'll hit the site next week. Thank you guys for watching and listening to this Age of Sigmar review, in a sense. If you've been following me on Twitter and stuff, I've been the most positive guy about this, and my heart's just kind of broken right now, and it's brutal. But I stuck to my guns. I said I'm going to give it the fair shake that it deserves, because of it being GW, and it's been 25 years of Warhammer, or whatever the hell it's been. And I gave it the shake it deserves. And the saddest part about it is that I don't even want to play it again, and I hate that. I hate that, because I mean, I would probably play it again, but I don't think I'd be able to find a player now in my area that will play it with me. So that's even the most disheartening part. Like, I think it could be fun, but it's so easily broken and unfair that it makes it too easy to do. So you're just gonna do it anyway, and that breaks my heart. But with all that said, guys, thanks for watching. Definitely play a game. Play the game, form your own opinion. Don't listen to anyone else about it. Take what I say with a grain of salt. If you get the game on the table and you roll dice and you like it, you play the shit out of it and tell me about it, man. Tell me, change my mind somehow. Just tell me what it can be. Make battle reports. Get the information out there. Try to put a different light on it. If anyone in my crew is willing to play it again with me, I'll definitely play it. So check it out, and we'll catch you on the next one. Thanks for watching.